Hi, I'm Luke Gilfillan. Welcome to the Lounge with Luke Gilfillan. Hello, and welcome to the Lounge with Luke Gilfillan. Today we're going to be going over the coronavirus and the River Forest Deer Task Force. So, some intense stuff we're going to be talking about. So, first off, this is from the New York Times. I'm not sure who wrote it's just by the New York Times. This is the coronavirus story. Chinese officials have confirmed over 7,700 cases of the mysterious illness as foreign governments airlifted their citizens out of Wuhan, the outbreak's epicenter. So recently, foreign governments, including like the United States and nearly every country in the world, have been taking their citizens out of this province, this Wuhan province, and bringing them back to America to be tested and kept in out of proximity of the outbreak's epicenter. The death toll rose to 170 in China, and the number of infections jumped by nearly 30%. Naturally, China now has more cases of coronavirus than it had of SARS, which was that outbreak in 2003, which I had not heard about until this thing popped up. So, it has more cases than SARS, and it doesn't currently have more deaths. Mainland China now has more cases of coronavirus than it had of SARS, a respiratory infection that's sort of similar to the coronavirus type thing that spread across China in 2002 and 2003 and killed 774 people in 17 countries. During the SARS outbreak, China had 5,327 cases and 329 deaths, according to the World Health Organization. The number of confirmed cases increased by more than 7,700 worldwide by early Thursday, according to Chinese officials and the World Health Organization, with all but 68 of the infections taking place in mainland China. On Wednesday, there were about 6,000 infections worldwide. In China, a total of 170 people have now died from the mysterious new coronavirus, according to new official Chinese statistics, but the real number is likely much higher. Dearth of test kits has hindered health officials' ability to accurately diagnose and track the illness. So, in China, 170 people have died, so that's not nearly on the scale of SARS, but it's pretty early, and symptoms tend to take around 2 weeks to set in. So, of these 7,700 cases, right now, there might be a lot more deaths on the way, unfortunately. China said on early Thursday that 38 more people had died from the new virus, which is believed to have originated in the central city of Wuhan and is spreading across the country. The previous account on Wednesday was 132. Thailand is reporting 14 cases of infection. Hong Kong has 10. The United States, Taiwan, Australia, and Macau have 5 each. Singapore, South Korea, and Malaysia have each reported 4. Japan has 11. France has 5. Germany has 4. Canada is 3, Vietnam is 2, and Nepal, Cambodia, and the United Arab Emirates each have 1. I'm surprised that Japan doesn't have more, given that they were the first to get the outbreak after China, of course. But I guess they don't. The 197 Americans who were evacuated from Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus, have been instructed by federal health authorities to remain for 3 days on the Air Force Base in Southern California, where they landed on Wednesday. I'm glad that they're getting these people out of there because I don't want them asking to come back weeks after this is spread across Wuhan, and they all get it. So that's good. In more funny news, the River Forest Task Force for the River Forest Deer Task Force has finally been consolidated. I'm not sure if we talked about this in an earlier episode. I think about last year, maybe last summer, this was beginning to be talked about. They were going to hire sharpshooters to get rid of all the deer in River Forest because if you don't live in River Forest, there's a lot of deer here from mostly Thatcher Woods. And they will walk around the neighborhood. I see some in my backyard a lot. So I kind of like them, but I can see why they can become an issue. So last summer, the river forest. I don't know what board it was or if it was the park district. Either way, they announced that they were looking into hiring sharpshooters to get rid of these deer, and that plan is sort of coming into effect. They've hired a task force, which is not necessarily like decided on the sharpshooters. They're just going to tackle the issue. They're going to have a deer management committee, and they're going to talk about it. And I really hope that they consider sharpshooters, because I think that would be kind of funny to report on. Of course, not like good that the deer are happening, but that's probably going to be the solution that they come up to. River Forest residents who want, this is according to Robert Lifka, a contributing reporter at the Wednesday Journal. River Forest residents who want to participate in the village's newly formed and ad hoc committee on deer management have until Tuesday, February 18th to submit applications. So if you want if you're a River Forest resident and you want to be on the deer task force, then you have until Tuesday of February 18th to submit your application. So get on that, please, because we need as many people on this task force as humanly possible. This is the crisis of our century, okay? The village board voted unanimously January 17th to create the committee and approve the application that is available on the village website. So the village board created the committee. I'm looking for who said this quote. Carl Vogel, director of communications for the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, told the village board, quote, I think it's very clear that experts and other communities who have experienced the same thing clearly recognize that this is an emotional issue. This is very emotional. I'm experiencing so many emotions that I never thought I would have as the result of this deer task force being formed. Hennick said, it's a serious issue and it's something I personally take very seriously in terms of the safety and health of our residents. Absolutely. I'm definitely 100%, 110% behind this deer management task force and always have been, he said. This will help us build an educational outreach program so our residents can learn how to coexist with deer in our community. You know, I've been having some trouble with coexisting with deer in the community. Every time I see the deer in my backyard, I am anguished by the pain of having to coexist with this deer, and what joy it would bring me if sharpshooters would just descend upon River Forest and eliminate the deer problem. I don't think anybody ever said that we're going to eradicate deer, but that we don't love deer. We do love deer. We all know where we live, by the river and by the forest. That's why we're here. I disagree. I'm not here to live by the river and by the forest. I'm here simply to eradicate the deer, which I've sworn to eliminate from the earth. Thank you so much for listening to Lounge with Gilfillan. I hope you've enjoyed the advisory series. I would recommend all of them. Brian, Sylvia, those were our most recent ones. If you haven't seen the other ones, very spectacular. I really like that Luke Gilfillan guy. He does a really good job interviewing. So thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.